What's up, everybody? Welcome into the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast. It is Wednesday, June 25th. Nick Whalen and Joe Bartel hanging out with you, Joe. It's become one of my favorite weekly tasks, at RotoWire.
You call me a task? How dare you?
Yeah, right. And I was going to say task is not even the right word. It's something I look forward to every week. We're starting up essentially our in-season schedule in the next couple of weeks. So things will be shifting around. We'll have even more episodes each week coming your way. I'm going to be shifting over to hosting with my radio co-host, my VSiN co-host, Jeff Erickson. So we're running out of episodes here, Joe. I still would like to mix in some bonus eps with you because it feels like there's still so much that we need to get to. Today's theme, we're going to play a game of who would you rather draft. Really, you're going to play this game, Joe, because I have come up with a bunch of players at the same position with very similar ADPs. You're going to tell me who you'd rather draft, because these are decisions that we're going to be facing, decisions that people listening and watching this pod on YouTube will be facing in the next couple of months. So pretty straightforward. Should be a lot of fun. Gives us a way to talk about a bunch of players here over the next 45 minutes. Before we get to that, we are brought to you, as always, by Circa. The ultimate fantasy football draft can only take place in one city. That city is Las Vegas, Nevada. Circa Resort and Casino wants to bring your entire league to Vegas with the ultimate fantasy football experience giveaway. The winner brings their 12-person league for a 2-night stay at Circa Resort, and you get to have your draft at a cabana down at Stadium Swim. Plus, you get limo transportation to and from the airport, a welcome party at the Legacy Club, a booth at the world's largest sports book, and a whole lot more. There's no better place to draft than Circa. Must be 21 and up. Go to circalasvegas.com for more information. We're also brought to you by the NFFC, and the NFFC RotoWire Fantasy Football Online Championship is now live over at the NFFC. You hear us talking about their ADP all the time. It's been a long-standing relationship with us over at RotoWire. We all play in their leagues. We love the NFFC. So if you haven't jumped in, make sure you check that out this season. You get to play fantasy football against a lot of your favorite RotoWire experts over on the NFFC this season. Jeff Erickson, you, Joe Bartel, myself, will all be competing in the RotoWire NFFC Online Championship for a shot at $250,000. Sign up for a draft today over at rotowire.com/high stakes. That's rotowire.com/high stakes. All right, we got the business out of the way, Joe. Let's get down to brass tacks. Again, we're going to play Who Would You Rather Draft. I'm going to give you 2 players. Sometimes there might be 3. Maybe there'll be even more than that. And you're going to have to tell me who you're drafting. And I'll tell you right now, Joe, I'm not drafting either of them is not an answer. It could be a caveat. You could say, I don't like either player, but you have to make a choice on each of these head-to-heads. And we will start with a guy who I know is near and dear to your heart, a guy I know you cashed in on big last season. Who would you rather draft, Joe Bartel, Josh Jacobs or Bucky Irving?
Yeah, I appreciate that you made sure I can't just weasel my way out of this. I've been using draft strategy conversations like, oh, no, I'd rather take a receiver here. I will still use that as an out for my overall analysis, but I'm gonna play the game here. And for listeners, I was not informed of any of these players either, so this is going to be completely presented to me as new information. And I will be prepared. Like on SiriusXM, I was asked Josh Jacobs and Jonathan Taylor, so you're already changing the question. The one thing I want to ask is: this going to be a half-point PPR or full-point PPR? Like if we're going down this road, let's go fully on this, Nick.
Okay, well, I appreciate your commitment to this. We'll say full PPR. I feel like most leagues I play in are full PPR.
I would agree with you.
Well, these will all be full PPR going forward. And look, yeah, like you said, you were on SXM with us this morning. I gave you the same question, Josh Jacobs versus Jonathan Taylor. I thought about just going with a 3-man question right away. If you want to bring JT into this, you can. But the core question is, would you rather draft Bucky Irving or would you rather draft Josh Jacobs? Bucky Irving in the last month, in the month of June at the NFFC, going on pick 21 on average. Josh Jacobs pick 23.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really close, I think, all year long. I was relative to the rest of the really smart people that work at RotoWire, I actually was a Bucky Irving supporter last year. You and I did a bunch of different expert drafts. I think there's a lot of the questions of what's going to be the value later on, who you're going to throw dart throws on. And I think every one of my leagues, and I played in 15 last year, had Bucky Irving rostered. But for a lot of people, Bucky Irving was a waiver wire win. And I think there's the positive sentimentality with Bucky Irving when that happens. I'm trying to make sure people understand when I say I will take Bucky over Josh Jacobs, it's not because I benefited from that. Like I liked Bucky Irving last year. There was a few leagues where I did end up drafting him, but there's never a point where, oh yeah, well, I got this waiver wire windfall, and therefore I have some positive sentiments to it. No, I believe in this Buccaneers offense. I think the Mekabuka addition was surprising to me. I'm not drafting Emeka Buka necessarily, but it just means the passing attack, even if Chris Godwin or Mike Evans or both were to get injured like we saw last year, will still be able to function in a positive capacity. That makes Bucky Irving in a full point PPR league, I believe, just as lucrative as he was last season. And to be clear, he was like a top 7 overall running back, especially during the fantasy playoffs. He was a gold mine. I don't know if that quite transpires, but I'm more confident Bucky Irving and what he did last year will be repeatable as opposed to Josh Jacobs. When I think Jordan Love is going to be healthier for that Packers offense, it will be a better passing offense, and Josh Jacobs will not be relied upon as much. They also have Marshawn Lloyd there. They have Chris Brooks, Emmanuel Wilson. That combo is going to be a good backup group. I'm slightly taking Bucky Irving over Josh Jacobs in a full point PPR format.
I'm with you on that. I think Bucky Irving is going to continue pacing the ADP. I'll be very surprised if Josh Jacobs passes him up at any point, unless there's some sort of unforeseen development. I think people want to draft Bucky Irving more than they do Josh Jacobs. I think people like Josh Jacobs, but you want to get in on the exciting second-year guy who got better and better as last year went along. Now, you mentioned some of the secondary options in Green Bay. What is your level of concern in terms of involvement for guys like Rachaad White, Sean Tucker? There's DJ Williams, Josh Williams at the bottom of that depth chart. What kind of share are we looking at for Bucky Irving right away? So
I'm going to default to something I read before the NFL draft. Matthew Berry, who's been pretty plugged in with the Buccaneers, had mentioned that on one of his articles, and again, I apologize, I don't know the name of it, but that he had heard rumblings about Sean Tucker overtaking Rachaad White, and that Matthew Berry wouldn't be surprised if Rachaad White was traded or moved to allow Sean Tucker to be the backup running back. We haven't seen that transpire yet, but a lot of the content in that article already has. So in my mind, the sources that Matthew Berry was alluding to, he didn't name any, but I think a lot of the other stuff happening in the article would prove that was true to some capacity. There are still some teams, and we've had these conversations the past month now, that I think Rachaad White would actually be really good for. And if the Buccaneers want to draft capital, they could probably do so. This is all to say I think Sean Tucker will be a factor in that offense, and a bigger factor that people are planning for right now. I don't believe that Sean Tucker's influence will come at the expense of Bucky Irving, though. I don't think you can put that genie back in the bottle after what happened really at the second half of last season. If it is going to be a Sean Tucker renaissance of sorts, it will come at the expense, of Rachaad White. But I think overall, just helping that offense moving forward. There's nobody on that team that can be the pass-catching threat and the runner that Bucky Irving was last season. He just does. Rachaad White's a good pass-catching back. I understand that. He does not act the same way or do the same things that they were asking Bucky Irving to do last year. Otherwise, Bucky Irving wouldn't have been a thing. It was because Bucky Irving was really, really good. So I'm not concerned that Rachaad White or Sean Tucker, and more importantly, Sean Tucker, cuts into that workload.
All right, let's stick with the running back position, Joe. I got two names who go on the 4-5 turn, and they have almost the exact same ADP. They have almost the exact same min and max pick in the month of June at the NFFC. Who would you rather draft? Chuba Hubbard or Alvin Kamara?
Oh, man. Both is going to be my answer for a lot of times, but again, I'm going to have to make sure I answer one or the other. I really like Chuba Hubbard. I don't understand the pessimism that I see a lot of collective smart people talk about it, including in this office here. I acquired Chuba Hubbard in a Dynasty League earlier in the offseason. That was like, kind of met around the room sort of move. I'm like, what are you talking about? He was awesome last season. The Panthers offense, for a lot of people, are assuming the Panthers offense is going to be better with the Ted McMillan part of things, Adam Thielen being healthy, of Jalen Coker as well. If you get anything out of year 2, Xavier Legette. I'm not a Bryce Young guy, but if you think the Panthers offense is going to get better, it has to be because Chuba Hubbard is the main focal point. Like Rico Dowdle, I know, got 1,000 yards for the Cowboys last season. That was because he was the only back for Dallas. I don't think Rico Dowdle touches anything Chuba Hubbard does. And I always think the extension that was given to Chuba Hubbard at the end of last season should be a marker for a lot of people to be like, the Panthers believe in him. But everyone just points to, well, the guaranteed money for Chuba Hubbard is done after this season so they can cut him. It was basically a 1-year reward for a bad team giving it to a good player. That's all well and good, but he was still a really crucial part to that offense. It's still Alvin Kamara, though. If I'm having to pick one or the other, I give all this hullabaloo to Chuba Hubbard, and I like him a lot. As a pass-catching threat, what Alvin Kamara can do, and also as a runner, that matters more to me in a full-point PPR format where Chuba Hubbard is not going to be used more as the pass catcher. I can also get the quality backup, whether it be Kendre Miller or Devin Neal, as one of my last picks. You can kind of do that for Rico Dowdle. I don't think Rico Dowdle is all that good. It doesn't matter to me. that I can get the Saints backfield matters a lot. I think Alvin Kamara is absolutely the right call. I think Alvin Kamara is right now one of the best values, no matter position. I think he's one of the best values out there at the moment. And I think he will be league winners, not the right term. I don't want to get Alan Slazowski cut bait here and that stuff, but I think Alvin Kamara is absolutely one of the best spots you can have for a running back 2 at the given ADP.
So I'm Team Hubbard here. It's close. I think it still sounds wrong to say, I want the Carolina Panthers offense over the Saints offense, but I do. I'm still not 100% sold on Bryce Young, but you can't deny that there was significant progress last season, especially over the last, 6 or 8 games. And you would like to think that Carolina is at least building something under Dave Canales, whereas I don't necessarily feel like New Orleans is moving in that same direction. You have a new head coach coming in, you have a new coordinator, which maybe is a good thing, all things considered, but I worry about the quarterback play significantly. And I know we're talking about running backs here, but this could be like devastatingly bad, right? I mean, right now we have Tyler Shuck at the top of the depth chart. We have Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener as your other realistic option. Somebody named Hunter Deckers is apparently on the team as well. I don't think he's going to be there come week 1. So I don't know. I never really understood why they signed Kamara to that extension last year. It kind of felt like it was working against the direction of the rest of the team. Maybe internally the Saints don't think they're going to be as bad as the market thinks they will, but I know you're an Olave guy. I'm kind of staying away from him as well. I don't really want parts of the Saints offense overall, even somebody as consistent as Kamara.
There's a zig where everyone else is zagging that I think is valuable in my mind. I also think you're thinking a bit from the NBA mindset where the NBA teams like the Hornets have to have a direction. And if they're not, they're just in the worst. It's the Chicago Bulls purgatory. Whereas the NFL, you can be bad and understand that you're bad or think that you're going to be good and be bad. Doesn't matter. And still produce fantasy wise. I've had this conversation with you probably every podcast for the past 5 weeks, but we always say there's a new listener every single time. It does not matter if your quarterback is bad. We've seen over the past couple of years that a passing attack can still function fantasy-wise, even if the quarterback is bad. Desmond Ridder, his Drake London's rookie year. Drake London was a fantasy value even as a 6th-round pick. Amari Cooper, the same thing. Jacoby Brissett is a bad quarterback. I happen to think Tyler Shuck can be okay.
Yeah.
And that's not a ringing endorsement by any means, but if he's the 28th best starting quarterback in the league, that is absolutely enough for Chris Olave to have return on his 5th, 6th round ADP. And that's absolutely enough for Alvin Kamara too. Now, the one part that I think is fair to push back on is, well, Joe, Alvin Kamara's fantasy value was best when he had Drew Brees making those throws and passes. Like if we're saying Alvin Kamara is going to have the fantasy function over Chuba Hubbard because he's a pass catcher and runner in a full point PPR format, can Tyler Shuck do that? My answer is I think anyone can. I think Alvin Kamara is one of the best pass catching backs in the league, and it doesn't matter what quarterback play it is. I could be wrong. I don't think a 3-yard shovel pass or whatever you want to call it is that difficult of a throw. Drew Brees could be the best all time at doing that, and that's why Kamara succeeds. But it does not mean that Tyler Shuck, who is a 2nd-round pick that I think a lot of people thought was overdrafted, I still think he could do that as well too.
Yeah, if we're talking full PPR, and the argument is, can Alvin Kamara be Wan'Dale Robinson and just rack up the 6 for 31 type of games? Then there is a path here. I mean, in terms of the rushing, pretty much all of his big games last year came on crazy high volume. Like every time he topped 100 yards, it was 20 plus carries. He had a 29 carry game against Carolina, ironically, in week 9. I do wonder, at this age with the amount of tread off those tires, how many of those games are going to be there? How often are the New Orleans Saints going to be in a position where they're running the ball frequently in the second half of a football game?
That's where I'll push back on it. Like, I think they have Devin Neal as a 6th-round pick rookie to actually be a bit more of a runner. I'll be surprised if he's not more involved as a ball carrier, even close to 120 carries. I think what's going to happen is if you think the Saints are bad, that's where Alvin Kamara has his most fantasy value, that he is going to get a lot of those dump down opportunities. I think especially end of the half scenarios that he gets 7 catches in that kind of game is not at all surprising to me. So in a full point PPR format, it's very interesting. If this was underdog, I would probably say Chuba Hubbard. And just like the previous question, if it was underdog, half point PPR, I'd probably have Josh Jacobs over Bucky Irving. But if it's in the full point PPR setting, which we established, give me Alvin, give me Bucky.
Okay. All right. How about our guy Jamie in the chat? He says Kamara top 10 back in Scott Fishbowl. I know you've been doing a ton of research.
Jamie took 7 tight ends in the first 6 rounds. Last time we talked to him, I don't trust Jamie's analysis at all on this. Don't give away my secret, Jamie. Shh, be quiet.
Okay. There we have it. Shots fired at Jamie in the chat. All right. Our next who would you rather draft, Joe? Going to the wide receiver position. Jackson Smith and Jigba or T. Higgins?
Oh boy, this isn't fair, because the answer for the listeners is no one. I would really, really, really not want to draft any of these receivers. Marvin Harrison is in that mix as well too. Lab McConkey's in that mix as well too. Okay, fine. He's a little whatever. Nick.
He goes about 10 picks higher for what it's worth.
Lab McConkey was 10 picks higher. Okay,
according to NFFC data, he goes about pick 21. JSN goes about pick 30 to 31. T. Higgins 32, 33.
Okay, so an underdog, they're all grouped together. That's really interesting that the smarter, I think it's fair to say, the smarter NFFC market has deemed Lad to be more interesting. So JSN or T. Higgins, this is a really tough one. I have 2 JSN shares in our redraft stuff that we did for a couple weeks ago here in Madison. I was not a willing participant in drafting JSN in either of those spots. It was just like I guess it makes sense. I don't buy that Cooper Kupp addition will make a big deal for the Seahawks offense. I don't think Marquez Valdes-Scantling will either. I think it's going to be JSN getting the full function of that passing attack. My bigger concern is how good is that passing attack going to be? When Kenneth Walker is healthy, that is the main focal point of the offense. And then even when he's out, Zach Charbonnet ends up being a main focal point of the offense too. I still am going to go with JSN because I have some concerns about T. Higgins being injury prone. I know there was a recent update saying that he's working on not being injury prone. Okay, great. I'm working on not eating at Culver's as much.
Yeah.
Not doing a really good job of that. Okay, great. I would rather have the number 1 receiver in an offense, even if I have question marks as to what that is, as opposed to number 2 receiver. And say what you want about T. Higgins and how great he is. Jamar Chase will always be the top target in that offense. Maybe T. Higgins benefits a little bit from that scenario, but I think I'd rather have JSN, who I think is just going to out-target him more by 40, 50 more, maybe even more targets than that. Like, how many targets do you think JSN will get this year? I think that's probably the bigger question.
Well, I think a lot of this hinges on your evaluation of Sam Darnold as well.
Yeah.
Right? How confident are you that we see close to last year's version of Sam Darnold?
On a scale of 1 to 10, I have about a 4 confidence that Sam Darnold will be as good. But the problem is, Nick, in this question, Sam Darnold was an MVP level quarterback last season. I mean, like that right. He doesn't play to that level last year isn't actually a slight on Sam Darnold. If Sam Darnold is the 20th best quarterback in the NFL, that's better than he was at any other point in his career outside of last year. This guy was seeing ghosts, not able to play on Monday Night Football at all, and then becomes an MVP candidate. Like, again, if he's the 20th best quarterback, that's fine for me, much in the same way that Tyler Shuck, if he's the 25th best quarterback in the league, is fine to me. I don't know. To answer my own question, if JSN gets 160 targets, which he had 137 last year, but that was with DK Metcalf.
Right.
And I think Geno Smith offense, that wasn't as good. They did some things this offseason with the offensive line that should be better. If JSN gets 160 targets, I think I'd rather have JSN hands down every time.
That was also with a 2 and a 3 target game in the first 3 weeks of the season. Like it was a sluggish start for JSN. Had that big game against New England in week 2, but really didn't start consistently ramping things up until week 8, week 9, when they were facing Buffalo and the LA Rams. I'm with you. This is JSN for me. Love T. Higgins. Don't trust him to stay healthy. Like you said, if you want to make it as simple as I want the bona fide number 1 receiver in an offense as opposed to the clear number 2, I think that is a fine tiebreaker in this scenario. All right, let's stick with receivers, and we'll talk about one of your guys, a former Seattle Seahawk. Would you rather draft Courtland Sutton or DK Metcalf?
Oh, DK Metcalf, hands down.
Okay.
If the answer is Alvin Kamara is the best value on ADP, and I would actually argue Caleb Johnson or Quinshon Judkins is right now, that will change come August because the rookies just get pushed up more. If Alvin Kamara is the best value at ADP right now, I think receiver-wise, DK Metcalf's in the same spot. I don't understand what we're thinking with this. Like, is it just that Aaron Rodgers is so bad? We're so annoyed with this Pat McAfee BS that we think he's not a good quarterback anymore. Like, fine. He's not the best quarterback of all time. Yes, people, he actually was better than Tom Brady at certain points of his career. Deal with it. Even if Aaron Rodgers is a top 25 quarterback like he was for the Jets last season, DK Metcalf is going to end up getting close to 100 catches and 1,300 yards. They have nobody else. There's not a single other receiver that is consequential for the Steelers. Not Robert Woods, not Kelvin Austin, not whatever you're going to do with even Pat Freiermuth, who I don't mind at his given ADP. Like, DK Metcalf's volume alone is going to be so substantial. Now, I'm allowed to change this answer if the Steelers do end up trading for a receiver like Romeo Doubs or somebody like that. But as it stands right now, with the depth chart that the Steelers have, DK Metcalf is going to be a second or third round selection next year off of volume alone, not to mention the highlight plays he is going to have, the back shoulder throws that he's going to make with Aaron Rodgers, or catches, I should say. Like, it is absolutely DK Metcalf. And I think the Courtland Sutton stuff, you are drafting off of the high of what happened last year. And I would be very shocked if Sutton reaches those same marks again.
All right, we have our first 3-player. Who would you rather draft? And you can take that however you want, Joe. You can rank them 1 to 3. You could just tell me which of the 3 you would rather draft, but they are in consecutive order right now in terms of NFFC ADP. Again, we're looking from the start of June until June 25th. Davante Adams, Mike Evans, DJ Moore.
It is going to be one that I have to grapple with a lot, because even if those guys don't go literally in sequence, there will be points of the entire third round and probably early fourth round where you have to decide, if you are on the clock, do I want to take one of these guys? I think they are hugely consequential to what you want to do. And I'll just break it down my thought process. Davante Adams, new situation again, another year older. Mike Evans, another year older, but in the same spot more or less. And we know he's been a touchdown merchant for his entire career. And then DJ Moore, who I happen to think is the most skilled of these receivers, but in a spot that I think has a lot of question marks as to what Ben Johnson does for that Bears offense. I believe, and we've talked about this, that DJ Moore can easily be the Amon-Ra St. Brown role for the Chicago Bears. It's not Luther Burden in my mind. I don't think they use Colston Loveland and Cole Kmet like a Sam Laporta. I think the one that I would say is in a 1-to-1 translation is DJ Moore to St. Brown. But there's already been reports about Moore not being happy in training camp, and the stuff we saw at the end of last season, and being banged up. Like, I know you've saw that a little bit. I'm sure you've talked about it on SiriusXM and on VSiN. I don't want my possible St. Brown replacement to have negative publicity in a time where there should be zero negative publicity. How can you have negative things to say in June and July about your new head coach and new offensive system? It just makes me a little bit nervous. Yeah. So I would have answered probably a month ago, DJ Moore, hands down. Yep. And that's changed for me. I think right now it's Mike Evans, and then Davante Adams, and then DJ Moore. And it's so dumb, because Davante Adams has been getting the positive praise. There's been that one stupid clip about Sean McVay showing the whole Rams offense. Here's what Davante Adams can do for you. It's like, well, wait, no, they have Puka Nacua. That's not what the Jets had at all. Like that, how is that going to relate? And Matthew Stafford might not have that relationship that Davante Adams has needed with Aaron Rodgers over the course of his career. I'm still enticed as to what a Sean McVay offense is when McVay knows how good Davante Adams is. That's enticing to me. So I would go Mike Evans, Davante Adams, then DJ Moore.
I don't think there's a right or wrong order here. You know that I'm a little bit more skeptical of Mike Evans than you are, but so much of that is rooted in the age. And if I'm going to make that case, I can't turn around and say I love Davante Adams, who is just as old as Mike Evans.
And DJ Moore is only like 2 years younger than both those guys too.
Yeah, I think he's like 28, almost 29. Yeah, which is, I would have guessed he was like 26. I was shocked when I found that out as well. My answer is I'm just taking Rashee Rice, who goes slightly ahead of these guys.
Wait, if you gave me that, I would have answered the same way, you little cheater. That's not fair in this game.
I know, I'm joking. But, I did a video for our YouTube channel the other day talking a little bit more about Mike Evans, and I'll throw some numbers your way, because it's lazy analysis to just say, oh, he's old and he's been banged up and he missed some time last year. How about pre-Godwin injury versus post-Godwin injury? Because Mike Evans also got hurt in that same Ravens game, ended up missing a couple of games, came back. Obviously, Godwin did not. So the 7 games in which he played with Chris Godwin, he averaged 4 catches for 48 yards. After coming back from injury with no Chris Godwin, he averaged 7 catches for 96 yards.
Substantial. You're right. And they still had Jalen McMillan. Kate Otten was a thing for a couple of weeks. The volume of passing attack, I think, is the bigger key in my mind. I think the Buccaneers towards the second half of the season really began to pass more. I think back to that Falcons game, that overtime loss they had. There was just more passing overall. Baker Mayfield really emerged as that quarterback one for a lot of teams. I felt like in the second half of the season, and that was through injuries to both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. My counter to you is, are you confident that Chris Godwin is going to be the Chris Godwin that we saw at the beginning half of last year? Because I have major reservations about that. You've been drafting a lot of Chris Godwin. I'm not saying don't draft him, but if we're just assuming Chris Godwin at the beginning of last year will be the same Chris Godwin that happens this year, that's a lot for me to expect when that was a really nasty ankle injury, and one that I know that he's been rehabbing. We've had positive news about, but it's not like a guarantee that that sort of ankle injury just comes back and is completely functioning the way you expect.
All right, let's go to another one here, Joe. We'll stick with the wide receiver position. These were the easiest for me to come up with. So just had our three-man, Davante Adams versus DJ Moore versus Mike Evans. Two very different players here. I'm curious to see where you go with this one. Would you rather draft Tyreek Hill or Terry McLaurin?
Oh, yeah. All the way Terry McLaurin. And I actually have a video probably coming out on one of our social media channels. We have Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I'm not sure where these go anymore. Really debating, like, who are the boomiest, bustiest players out there? And you have to be careful saying that on certain platforms, the bustiest. But Christian McCaffrey is the number one answer on that list for everyone. You understand that Christian McCaffrey, if he stays healthy, has the 1-1 potential. The number two answer has to be Tyreek Hill, and nobody else talks about that. It's like, well, look what happened the past couple of years. I would say, look what happened the past 3 months. Like, there is so much negative news cycle with Tyreek Hill, and another guy that if you want to do the, he's getting older thing, and this guy's going to be 32 entering this season. One thing that you assume always is lost when you get older is speed. And even though it's Tyreek Hill being one of the fastest players alive, I would imagine he gets a little bit slower. If we're doing this on Madden, he's like 99 speed for most of his career. Now he's 96.
Yeah, you see that red arrow going down. Yeah. Hate to see that.
Exactly. Like that just makes me nervous. And then he's dependent on Tua also being healthy, which is another nerve-wracking thing altogether. I want no business with Tyreek Hill. Just like if somebody wants the windfall of Christian McCaffrey, I'm going to let them go ahead and do it. I think the windfall of Travis Hunter, yep, okay, go ahead, let him do it. Tyreek Hill is in that same spot for me as well. So in my mind, it's Terry McLaurin all the way. I understand that the massive touchdown positive ratio was crazy last year. You think about the Cowboys one where the Commanders won that game inexplicably because the Cowboys forgot how to cover Terry McLaurin.
Oh, yeah.
That won't happen. But Terry McLaurin is much closer to an 8 to 10 touchdown guy with Jaden Daniels, the quarterback, than the 4 or 5 touchdowns that we saw with I don't know who's the now Seahawks backup that was the starter for that 1 year. It doesn't matter. The quarterback play is significantly different in Washington now.
Sam Howell?
Yes, thank you. Is he he's a backup for somebody else now? The Vikings, right?
I don't know where he's at. Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
doesn't matter. I believe Terry McLaurin is much more of an 8 touchdown guy, 10 touchdown guy with this quarterback, this offense, than what he was earlier this year. So yes, he will likely regress in touchdowns this season, but I don't think it's consequential.
Scored on 16% of his catches last season, which is a ridiculous rate.
That's a lot, yes.
He was 19th in total receptions. He was outside the top 20 in total targets. Not saying it can't happen again. Love Terry McLaurin, the player. Very, very unlikely, I think, to repeat that kind of touchdown efficiency.
Am I hearing the answer is I won't draft either of them from Nick Whalen? Because I think that's where you're going with this.
Yeah, I for me, it would still be McLaurin. I just don't the way I draft. I don't take chances on guys like Tyreek Hill. I just don't. This is an egregious cross-sport comparison, which is what I do on the show.
That's why we're so great.
I was the guy saying, I'm not taking Kawhi Leonard. I'm not taking Joel Embiid. It's not worth it. Do the math. I know with Tyreek, it's a mix of not trusting him off the field. Seemingly he was banged up all of last year. Even when he was healthy, he's still sitting on the sideline longer than you would like. There's too much going on. And I get that you no longer have to burn like the 4th overall pick on Tyreek Hill, and that does make it palatable. If things break right, he could be the best value in any draft. I totally understand that. That's just not usually the way that I play fantasy.
It's because I feel like you say you're a wuss. No, I think it's because we're smarter. I like the allure of a Christian McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Hunter. I get that premise. And when you get it right, it's so great when you get it right. But my God, how many times Joe Bartel, the person, is one of the unluckiest people you're ever going to meet. At least any positive, lucky thing you're going to have happen, it does not occur for me. So while I understand maybe you, the listener, be like, oh no, it'll definitely work out for me with Christian McCaffrey. That's because I won't choose to go there. Because I guarantee you, if I take a Christian McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill at their ADP, they will get injured. Something bad will happen. That's what occurs for me. So I don't like to go down that direction. I understand the premise for a lot of those guys, but I'm with you. I feel very comfortable with what I can get later in the draft at receiver or how I want to build my roster where I don't have to have these boom bust players. And I will avoid that sort of risk every time. Yeah.
So what we're saying basically is it's like a person by person basis. Like there might be somebody luckier out there, and if they draft Tyreek Hill, it will work out. But for you specifically, it's doomed before it even starts.
Correct. Or if it does work out, the rest of my team is completely washed.
Yes.
There is no way for me to ever be able to get a windfall on a Tyreek Hill or Christian McCaffrey.
All right, we got a super chat here. Thank you, Michael Kenzel. He says he's in a Dynasty Superflex 10/10 PPR. He says, I'm top 6 and I want to trade for either Kittle and Josh Jacobs for Henry, Jameson Williams, and Jerry Jeudy, or McBride for Henry and Jameson Williams. So I believe what he's saying is he would trade Kittle or trade McBride, if that's how I'm reading this correctly.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting that the McBride part of things, McBride ends up being a bit more expensive. I don't think the Cardinals' offense changes this year. I want to be clear. We've had this Marvin Harrison convo in the past. Everyone wants to believe that second year Marvin Harrison's just going to be better magically. I like Marvin Harrison a lot as a prospect. The Cardinals literally did nothing this offseason to say that they're going to make Marvin Harrison more of a focal point. You can show me all the cool muscle pictures that he's had the past couple of weeks, or we've seen some growth in Marvin Harrison. Great. How does that play in the field? Because I don't know what their offense is going to do differently to make Marvin Harrison the guy. So Trey McBride will be the functioning number one target for that offense. I just think I'd rather have Kittle and Josh Jacobs when all the price is Derrick Henry, which I think is a downgrade. Like Derrick Henry to Josh Jacobs this year is a downgrade. But for the next 2 or 3 years, I think you're probably getting more out of Josh Jacobs. And I'm fine selling high in Jameson Williams right now. You and I have both had that conversation where post Ben Johnson, I would like to see what Jameson Williams is in that offense. And I would be willing to bet it's a little bit less, either out of stupidity or dumb choices, injury, or just having Jared Goff as the quarterback without Ben Johnson propping him up. So I would rather have the Kittle Jacobs combo to trade for. And I'm okay giving up Derrick Henry and Jameson Williams in that conversation, I guess. And Judy's being thrown in. Judy doesn't make a whole difference to me unless there's depth questions. And I always pose this to people making these trade offers. Are you making the other team significantly better to win? Like Nick and I did a trade earlier in our Dynasty League. Nick already won the league last year. I don't really care that I'm going to make Nick a 2-time winner, but if it makes Nick a 3 or 4-time winner, I don't want to do that. Like there is a part of it where I'm like, no, you don't get to win all that much. It's not because of me making a stupid trade with you. Boston Celtics, every team bails them out, right? If we're doing the cross-sport examples on this. So just keep that in mind. But I would rather acquire Kittle and Jacobs, and I'm fine giving up Derrick Henry, Jameson Williams, and Judy in that case.
All right, let's get back to the board, Joe, as we continue our game of who would you rather draft. We move on to the tight end position. Who would you rather draft? 2 guys with almost identical ADPs right now, Evan Engram or Jonnu Smith?
Oh, Evan Engram, 100%. I'm surprised that the ADPs are so close yet. I've seen Jonnu Smith fall a lot, and I wonder if it's in the NFFC where it's the point per reception that's boosting him a little bit. I know there was that report about Jonnu Smith and the Steelers having interest.
Yeah.
That would be catastrophically bad, I think, for Jonnu Smith's value. I also, and this is a conversation we've had at the office plenty of times, I have with you as well, too. I refuse to believe that Mike McDaniel, who I still think is a good coach, will look at what happened last year with the Dolphins offense, which was middle of the pack in basically every category, and say, yep, run that back. All we needed was Tua healthy last year. We haven't beat a good team in 3 years. Nope, got to keep doing the same thing. If Mike McDaniel is a good coach, and I think he is, there has to be some change. And it can't be checking down Devon Achane and Jonnu Smith for the volume that they had last year. I refuse to believe that's going to happen. So there is going to be a regression for Jonnu Smith, and I think Devon Achane as well. Whether that's Tyreek Hill benefits on that or Jalen Waddle, who I would rather gamble on, that's a different question. Evan Engram, I think, is the number 2 target for that Broncos offense. No, he's not going to be used the same way as Jimmy Graham or other Saints-related Sean Payton stuff you want to do. But they don't have good receivers. It's Marvin Mims who runs straight. I'm not buying this Patrick Bryant rookie camp hype stuff. He's not Michael Thomas. It literally is Courtland Sutton, who I don't think is all that good for that offense, and then Evan Engram. So long as Evan Engram is healthy, he is going to be the guy I want. And I would rather have Evan Engram. He's probably going to be my most rostered tight end at his ADP. I just think it's going to change come August, and more people are going to be drafting Evan Engram higher.
Both players going on average pick 104 right now in the NFFC. Again, that is over essentially the last 3.5 weeks. All right, let's stick with tight ends, Joe. 2 guys who go a little bit later. We're talking the early 120s. Tyler Warren or Tucker Kraft?
So our answer to this, because I think you were the same way, was Tucker Kraft probably 4 weeks ago. Yeah. That was a little post NFL draft. I didn't really like the landing spot. There has been no bigger Twitter winner over the past month than Tyler Warren. The amount of usage that he's been getting or mentioned and the way the Colts are using him, it's like, oh my God, am I wrong with this? So I'm officially ready to wave the white flag, and I will be drafting Tyler Warren this year in certain formats. It's just too much smoke. And especially when I have concerns about what this passing attack will look like. They have a lot of really good weapons, but I think they lack a second intermediate middle target. And Daniel Jones has been able to get those guys like Daniel Bellinger, Evan Engram at certain points, a lot of usage. And I think Tyler Warren, with the draft capital invested, with the win that front office needs to have in Tyler Warren, there's a lot of collective incentive from both the coaching and the personnel group to make Tyler Warren be a thing. Maybe not Brock Bowers level thing, but be a thing. So whereas I would have taken Tucker Kraft universally 3 weeks ago, I'm all the way in on Tyler Warren and what he can do for that Colts offense now.
All right, let's move over to quarterbacks, Joe. I want to throw a couple more your way, and then we will get out of here. We're gonna go with a 3-man here. You know, I had 2 guys, but I want to throw a third in here. We got to up the difficulty a little bit. So, who would you rather draft? These players vary in ADP from pick 91 to, why am I not finding? Oh, pick 112. So a little bit of a wider range here, but I wanted to throw this third name in there: Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, CJ Stroud.
Oh boy.
So CJ Stroud is the one of these 3 who's going. Cheapest. Yeah, he's the cheapest. He's going about a round and a half later, maybe even more in some drafts.
Where is Trevor Lawrence and Jordan Love in this equation?
Jordan Love is 2 spots ahead of CJ Stroud, QB 16 versus QB 18. Trevor Lawrence, QB 20.
Well, I'd rather have Trevor Lawrence over all those, given the price. I know that wasn't the question, but I just want to be clear to people that I don't in the NFFC, it's 6 points per passing touchdown.
Yep.
It will look weird, but I really don't mind Trevor Lawrence as my quarterback 1 in that build if I'm saying I'm going to take him around 12 or whatever it is. And I'm not positive it gets there. You're playing with a lot more money in terms of the stakes invested in every one of those leagues. So there are going to be sharper people, but also ones that will try to block you from doing stupid things like waiting for Trevor Lawrence to be your quarterback 1. If it's just on paper, I'm fine with that. Of those 3, and I think let's include Jordan Love in this mix, 6 points per passing touchdown. If I think this is going to be a more pass-heavy offense for the Packers, Jordan Love's probably quarterback 2 of that group. I'm still going to take Brock Purdy number 1, though. The Niners' schedule is incredibly easy. I think the way that they win football games will be because of their defense, but also because Brock Purdy's passing the ball a ton and passing it to all their weapons. Now, it might not look great first half of the season when Brandon Ayuk's still getting back. You got whatever's going on with Ricky Pearsall and his hamstring injury. George Kittle inevitably missed at least 1 or 2 games. Like there's going to be some queasy moments, but when you're drafting these quarterbacks where you are, you can easily go Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott. Like it's very functioning to just do the platoon level quarterback. And I think I feel really comfortable with that. So Purdy has the highest upside given the schedule. I like Jordan Love as my quarterback 2, then Dak Prescott, given what I think the Cowboys will have to do offensively. And I guess Stroud's 4, even though I really like Stroud. I think he's a totally fine quarterback, and I like what they did this offseason. I'm not concerned about the offensive line issues that a lot of people are. I think CJ Stroud is one of the top 10 best quarterbacks in the league talent-wise. There just needs to be a lot that goes right. Like the offensive line has to be mediocre and not atrociously bad like it was last year. And Christian Kirk has to stay healthy, which a lot of people don't think he will do. And if he doesn't, then Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins have to be really good rookies, which isn't a guarantee. So Stroud is 4 among that group for me, even though I like him a lot and I like what the Texans did this offseason.
All right, we'll end on this one, Joe. 2 very different players at the QB position. 2 guys going right around pick 100 at the NFFC. QB 14 and QB 15. Would you rather draft Justin Fields or Justin Herbert?
So this is the NFFC, 6 points per passing touchdown. My answer on best ball leagues and 4 point per passing touchdown leagues is Justin Fields. I've come around on this, looking a bit more of the data. A lot of smart people on Twitter are kind of posting that stuff. But when Fields has been a starting quarterback, we all know he's been a top 6-7 fantasy quarterback in most of those weeks. There isn't a lot of other functioning pieces that happen with that. Garrett Wilson's probably your best case example or a positive example of a player that will benefit with Fields the quarterback. But the fantasy manager will benefit from Fields being the starting quarterback. I would rather in a 6 point per passing touchdown league have Justin Herbert. I'm not buying the Trey Harris will make this offense better thing. Like Mike Williams is going to start a couple of games that people are going to get frustrated by. He'll inevitably get injured then. Lab McConkey will probably get injured a couple of games too. And they're going to run the ball a ton with Najee Harris and Amari Hampton. But it can still be Justin Herbert getting 30 passing touchdowns. Like that's easily within the realm of possibility with how good I think he is and how that team will play in Greg Roman's system. So I'll take Justin Herbert in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues, but Fields just about everywhere else.
How much does job security worry you at all in this context? Obviously, we're talking about Fields here. Like, we saw it last year in Pittsburgh. Let's say he plays his way out of the job. Is that something you're thinking about, or are you assuming, okay, look, if I'm starting Justin Fields in week 1, I have at least one other, later round quarterback who I could just pivot
to? My answer is I'm not really concerned about the job security. The backup for Justin Fields is Tyrod Taylor. If you're the Jets, you know what Tyrod Taylor is. Like, what is the point of playing Tyrod Taylor at all? You're not going to win playoff games with Tyrod Taylor. You're probably not going to make the playoffs with Tyrod Taylor unless you're trying to teach Justin Fields a lesson or your rookie quarterbacks a lesson, or like make sure your roster understands you're trying to compete. That would be like what a tough guy defense coordinator Aaron Glenn would want to do.
Yeah.
But like Fields isn't a problem. From what we've all seen, it's not a headache issue. It's just like he's just not very talented at being a quarterback necessarily. So I don't think there's ever going to be a point where Fields gets replaced. And even if he does, even in the NFFC, you can get a backup quarterback to replace him pretty easily too. So in my mind, it's a no-brainer, especially in best ball formats, no-brainer. Fields from a rushing perspective is the right call. I don't think if he doesn't play, it's going to be due to injury. I don't think because of getting benched or anything like that.
All right. Great stuff, Joe. Appreciate you just, sitting there and letting me pepper you with names.
This is
good.
good.
40 minutes. Yeah, this is fun. We'll have to do another one of these as we get updated ADP throughout the summer. But I got to get out of here. I got to go talk about the NBA draft for the next 4 hours as we creep up on round 1 of that. So we'll sign off here. Go check out Circa, check out that contest, go host your draft live out at Stadium Swim. Make sure you check out the NFFC as well. Those contests really starting to heat up. Spots are limited. Go join the RotoWire Online Championship. Always my favorite league to play in every year. You're not going to find higher stakes leagues, Joe. You're not going to find leagues that have 250K just out there for the taking. Who knows? Maybe one of us will win that this year. We will see. Even if you just win your league as a part of the RotoWire OC, you're taking home a couple $1,000. So there's serious money on the line over at the NFFC. Joe, awesome doing this with you as always. We'll try to sneak in an episode before the holiday next week, but RotoWire Fantasy Football Pod rolls on. Like we said, we will be really ramping things up in a couple weeks. After the July 4th holiday, we'll have our full preseason, essentially our regular season schedule. So we'll be bringing you 5 episodes per week. We'll have bonus episodes mixed in. All of our hosts will be back in the mix. You can find it wherever you get your podcast, and you can check it out on the RotoWire YouTube channel as well. Joe, we'll talk soon, man.